Wait, four. Wait, four.
Hello, everybody. That's how you get the official start to WoW wrap up.
Hold up. It's like in 3, 2, 1. Look at the camera. And it's black. No, there it is. Hello, everyone. Before we say anything, are we okay with the sound, with the sync and the voice and the lips and all of that? Is everything good on that front? Do you see feedback and reactions over there?
Yes, people are. Sync is good so far.
Sync is good. Hey, Mokti! Yes. Can you check the sound, please?
and then yourself, please. God damn it!
Before you wreck yourself. All right, let's see what's happening. All right, Mokti confirmed Yebine, which in our native tongue means
dick.
Yeah. All right, so basically today we're going to talk a lot about current World of Warcraft, War Within, because we have like 2 weeks of no wrap up. The first week was with Gamescom, and the second one was recovering from Gamescom.
was Booger Week for Flame.
Yeah, that was. So we wanted to do the wrap up last week, but I think it was for the best.
Oh yeah, no, I don't think I would have died Friday.
It was very, very sketchy because his voice was almost not existent, but also, you know, he had throat issues, you know, your throat was hurting and all of that.
Part of the cold.
Yeah, better that way, because he would have came here and he would have got all of us sick, and that would have been of no help to no one. But regardless, we're talking about positive things here, and that is the current state of World of Warcraft, and how War Within is basically got us back to falling in love with this game. And it's weird because it's not about... The season hasn't started yet. Usually we're getting excited because of the season, the new gear, the tier sets and all of that. But this time around, it felt like all-time World of Warcraft new expansion, just, you know, being happy to log in and do shit.
Well, they did take their sweet time in prolonging the off-season period, which some people may not agree with, but we will tell you why this is one of the best decisions they could have made. And in no small part because, well, mostly I played the Season 1 of the War Within, and I'm happy not playing the Season 1 of the War Within just yet.
Okay, so yeah, obviously because of the nature of the content on this channel and stream, there was a lot of like beta stuff, so the guys, and Arja as well, because she was there, I think, in almost all of the dungeons.
Oh yeah.
You know, a lot of beta testing, Mythic Plus and all of that, but to be fair, like, apart from a couple of bosses you did on the raid testing.
Yeah, so like 3 bosses or 4, I think.
Yeah, so there wasn't that much on that front. But in terms of like the Mythic Plus and all of that, it was...
done it all. Literally from zero to hero.
Literally!
From the affixes you've had in Dragonflight to the affixes you're never going to see ever again to the affixes that you will see eventually, unless we did it.
Hopefully, you know, that will not paint or throw in a wrench in what has been at least 2 wonderful weeks of World of Warcraft. Now, what we saw in, you know, the comments on our videos and stuff, granted, we didn't really do an actual video regarding the state of WoW, but I think the general perception and reception of War Within is no short of amazing.
It is very positive for sure, and we could probably draw a line after, let's say, Season 1 kind of reaches its end, to, you know, analyze the whole Season 1 with the raid and the dungeons. But as it stands right now, playing the first couple of weeks of the expansion, leveling, doing all the stuff, we're going to go into it, like our favorite parts and what has been done good and what has been still good. It's mostly positive.
Yeah, I think there's one just teeny bit of criticism. We can throw it at the end, maybe. We'll see.
It's teeny because there's a lot of good, but...
Yeah, there's a lot of good. So I think like one major thing we can address starting with this point is the promise they made and how was that fulfilled. Because when they presented War Within at BlizzCon, they really tried to sell this whole part of, guys, we really want to tell a cool story first. And did they deliver on that? We don't know. Okay, so we don't know what's going to happen. But the starting off point, like when we got into the War Within and, you know, started leveling, and then we got to the second week and so on and so forth, I think the start is basically a first part of what they would have been promising of delivering. So to give you a context, like me and Flame, we really wanted to care about the story of and care once again about the lore, right?
I think since the end of BFA when we started to actually kind of drip off a little bit
Yeah.
with the Nilotha JPEG, that's when the signs were like, dude, what's going on?
No. Yeah, so we wanted to get back into that because, you know, we're super geeks on that front. You know, both of us have like tons of books and comics with, well, like the old stories and stuff. And we wanted to get back in that.
Yep.
Now, granted, there's still a lot of things that could be done, but we're not going to focus on that right now. The thing is, why I was given a context, it's been a very long time since I had the urge to log in back to WoW just to carry on doing new stories.
He's
within the
actually
game.
chained to the table right now, so he doesn't rush
Yeah, so
home
I don't
and then
move
play
I
the
just
game.
cannot wait to get back because you play a lot on stream. Obviously, you know, Mokti plays all the goddamn time. I don't know when the fuck he sleeps and edits and stuff.
He sleeps.
Yeah,
We know he doesn't shower.
It's a weird thing because usually I get excited to like get back into WoW whenever there's like a new raid, you know, new Mythic Plus dungeons and
You
stuff.
know, you just want to quest.
And now I just want to, you know, do more quests, do more stories, discover more stuff. I didn't have this in Dragonflight because people talk about a lot about the honeymoon period, which is a real thing. We're not going to throw that to the garbage.
True.
Every new expansion comes with the honeymoon period. I
sure.
remember this was in Shadowlands, I remember in BFA, I remember in the Dragonflight was like, oh my god, this expansion is so good, it's the best ever. That's the honeymoon period.
To be fair, to that point, all of the expansions that were kind of deemed bad, you know, Warlords of Draenor, BFA, Shadowlands, actually had, if not an amazing, a really good starting period when it came to leveling through the zones and going through
Warlords
the
had a
story.
great starting point.
That was probably still
3
one
days
of
of
the
no
best-
logging in, motherfucker.
No, I don't mean that. I mean the leveling and story experience.
Yeah,
like
I
the
know what you
actual
mean.
game
I know what you
content
mean.
from what is it, 100 to 110 or whatever it was.
Yeah.
That was actually really good. You know, the end game, the implementation of the systems later on, that's when, you know, some of the bad expansions kind of trailed off. And, you know, we know the history. But there are a lot of things that are going to make World Within great and a lot of things that make it good now. And a lot of reasons why we actually enjoyed playing this time around and what keeps us coming
weird.
back.
It's weird because when you think of us, like, you know, judging it from the content that we do, it would appear that the most enjoyable thing for us is doing keys and progressing the raid.
It's actually,
You know,
not really. I mean, we love it, but
it was, yeah, and this was such a breath of fresh air. And I can imagine this was the story for a lot of folks, actually. Because a lot of people went on to like play the game as Blizzard intended for the last couple of years, which is very really, I don't know, a chill out, just, you know, being in awe with everything that's happening in the game, because it is a game at the end of the day, and it's a freaking shame that this universe, this whole big, humongous, you know, map of things to go to, and you have all of this previous expansions that you know you had that sense of wonder, you know you had that sense of, oh my god, I cannot get back in to like start leveling an alt or discover this or do that. It's what they did now is basically added the soul back into WoW for this beginning of the expansion. I didn't feel the soul in Dragonflight. I didn't feel the heart. I didn't feel the connection. Now, one thing, and there's a lot of things, but
for sure,
this is
we can take them one at a time.
Yeah. For me, like the one thing that was very, very intriguing and it was pure love from my end was they actually went into the route. This is gonna sound a bit exaggerated, but hear me out. They went onto the route of The Witcher construction, in the sense that the side quests from The Witcher are potentially sometimes even more interesting than the actual story, some of them. But regardless of all the side quests, they're all kind of linked and they all feel they're part of this bigger story, or at least what you're doing in the current context. This hasn't happened in Dragonflight. I didn't feel that in Dragonflight. So talking about honeymoon periods or whatever, again, I realize that is a thing and we're probably living it as we speak, but one major difference between Dragonflight, I'm not even going to talk about Shadowlands and BFA, okay? We will just forget about those, erase them. No, but just purely out of the fact that you went through the major campaign, and then, you know, as you do when you level up, you maybe pick up a random side quest or two. That's what I did.
Yeah.
And once I got into it and started reading the text and seeing the little stories and characters, I was hooked. I was like, oh my God, I need to pick up more. This is really cool.
Let's actually talk about that, because I think this is probably one of the biggest factors that pulled us in, and probably more people like it, is the questing and the comparison to Dragonflight. Because we talked about, I don't know if it was in a previous podcast or in a previous video, we talked about the leveling experience, and in Dragonflight, I actually felt like I was back into WoW, and it gave me that vanilla, like wanderlust feelings, like, oh my God, it's a whole brand new world
and stuff.
And it was really cool, and the first few zones definitely capitalized on that, but the side quests were not all there. So if we're gonna put them side by side, the War Within and Dragonflight, the War Within are essentially all side quests belong to a living world. Everything makes sense. All of the side quests are kind of like filler story to the main campaign. They actually go into why certain characters are motivated to do what they do. They actually go explore, like, if the main campaign is like, go defend that wall because the bad guy is attacking us, the side quests are like, well, who's the bad guy? Why is the bad guy's lieutenant destroying that part of the wall? Let's go save that. But there's a family there that just moved in. Why did they move in? Well, because we came into the zone because of the bad guy. So all of this is not like just collect 15 wolves from sheep.
I mean, you have that as well, but
yeah, but no, but I meant it's
good.
not disconnected from the story, right?
For sure.
It's all woven, and it's actually a part. Like, what I like to say is that the majority, like 90% of the quests were probably just, this is the story of the War Within. Okay, what's the main campaign? So they choose kind of like the thick thread line of that. And then it's like, okay, then all of this that can still be main campaign, we're just gonna, you know, designate it as side quests. So that made it feel like the world actually is alive, like things matter, like little villages matter, the delves matter, because, you know, going into the waterway,
they're connected
deeps,
to quests as well.
yeah, they, like, you're not forced to do the delves, but, you know, as you do the quest, you're like, oh, to enable this thing so we can get those golems to fight Xalatath that you actually use in the fight with Xalatath.
Yes.
So it all comes around in circle. So it definitely, like you said, in The Witcher, it feels like it's I want to say it actually goes above and beyond Witcher, where
oh shit,
it
really?
builds to the main story. Like I'm just talking about I don't know if it's the latest chapter, but the one when you go in Ringing Deeps and you do the golem stuff.
Yep.
And then the wars, the Nerubians start attacking the wall for the Arathi, and you use those golems to defend, and that's a main campaign. But that one wasn't the main campaign.
Exactly. Yeah.
So that it all comes to build. There's all a purpose. It's not just like, oh, what do we do? Well, I guess there's some quests that the devs just put in so that we don't get bored. It doesn't feel like that, and Dragonflight definitely had that. Like the side stories that were good in Dragonflight, they were like kind of disconnected from the main story in a way. You didn't really have to do them. Like Bane going on a rampage in Honoran Plains didn't really help us defend the Primalists or defeat the Primalists or stop Iridikar in any way. No, it was just Bane's friend just happened to unfortunately get killed by centaurs. Spoiler! And then you went on a revenge/investigating spree. So that's why it keeps us like, because it actually feels like, oh, I wonder what they're gonna do next. Why is that person there?
That's the reason why I, get up in the morning, and instead of coming to the office, I'm like, maybe I can log in a little bit a while, because what else
that's
is
such
there?
a high school experience for me. It's like that's the only time I was like,
Well,
I got to do, but might have play a
when
little
is
bit.
the last time we got a chance to have this feeling? And honestly, I feel like most of the player base, like that are similar to us, like really was thirsty for something like this, because once you
Wait
go.
a second, we're out of sync now.
Oh, we are sync now.
Yeah, we're out of sync.
Mokti, you bastard!
Sync. Bye bye bye.
Okay, how's it looking?
Well, I don't know. If we're out of sync, we gotta.
No. How's it looking on the delay thing on your side?
10 millis.
But how's it looking now? As the setup?
We are at 500 milliseconds.
500 milliseconds.
We put it at 0. See how we stand.
I don't think 0. No, put it at 700.
700.
We'll go extreme mode.
All right.
Right.
It's 700. Hello, Mokti. Eat an onion.
Yeah, in a salad, because it's good. Is it okay? Okay. I like we're speaking English and he's like blowing it in Romanian.
Yeah, it's fine. It's like we
don't put 250.
250. 250 now.
250. Is it super desynced or is it okay? Okay. He says it's okay.
Before we go, there are a lot of people in chat that don't see the quest the way we do, and actually had a conversation with this. Maybe we can, kind of take your guys' opinion at the end.
Yeah, well, this is how it flows. So do throw your questions or comments in the chat, and we'll start. Are just gonna look at them and save them, and we're gonna chat about what you guys said at the end.
Yeah, because it's not like we're 100% right, but there's ways of playing WoW that kind of figure out that I think Preach did an interview with I saw a snippet with Jesse Cox and. Oh God, what
That
was
the
the
podcast? I
Yeah,
think,
yeah, the podcast, and Preach said something that really made it feel sense. Like we're so used to like skipping everything,
Yeah.
like playing the next thing, and I feel like a lot of people still do that. And
It's a
now
shame.
the game doesn't tell you that you're actually missing out on a lot. For now, it made sense because it was just like fluff content. The writing of the story wasn't that great, where you felt like you wanted to read, but now you're actually doing yourself a disservice.
Oh yeah,
You were saying.
I was just trying to like compliment what people are like the feeling, because I've seen some of the vibes as well, and yeah, it's kind of like a syndrome of old expansions, old prior expansions, starting with maybe BFA, possibly even Legion a little bit, but once again, it's a shame if you go through the game through War Within and you just skip everything, because this time around they really put in some effort and soul into that. It definitely shows. One major like feature of this expansion is the storytelling. This is it. They never put this on like a marketing thing, right? Like, hey, we have delves, we have hero talents and story. That's never going to happen. But I think so far, what impressed me the most about World of Warcraft War Within is the actual story, the campaign and the side quest and the characters.
What do you think? Because I want to give this a good example, because I want to contrast this with why we fell out of love with the story. What do you think of the side quest with Faerun and Anduin?
Oh, that's a good one. See, my expectation with Faerun was that she's going to be like this old, another bossy lady,
Boss babe, yeah.
Yeah, boss babe that would teach Anduin how to be a man, and he's all wrong and stuff. I wasn't that impressed, but I definitely was surprised by her character.
Oh yeah.
I was surprised because she didn't strike me as a boss lady. She came across as this like maybe damaged, maybe a little bit, problematic character that has a lot to like get solved as well. Similar to Anduin. I didn't get a vibe. I see some people already like, oh my God, they're gonna fall in love and blah blah. I don't think that's gonna happen.
There's no actual
I see them.
chemistry.
I see them being useful for each other. I think it's a seed of something to become really awesome. Right now, I wouldn't say I was like super impressed, but I was surprised. Let's put it like that.
Yeah, I kind of thought she was going to be more of a beacon for him. She was a good foil in the sense that she actually, didn't have his fear of disappointment, because that's what Anduin was struggling with. He felt like if he would call on to the light, he would be disappointed by the light not responding. Not that he tried and it didn't work. He didn't want to try at all. Yeah. And, Faerun and the Arathi, because Faerun was kind of like the spokesperson for the Arathi, don't really have that privilege of not trying, because they live in the darkness.
But it's kind of like they are basing everything around the light.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit different.
It's also the dynamic between the two parts of the Arathi people, where the cautious ones are, we don't go out in the dark, we lock our doors at night, and she's like, but we're never gonna get out of here if we don't venture into the dark and brace it and have bravery and courage and go in. And that's basically where she imparts all of that into Anduin. And all of these, there's a little bit tidbit in the main story, but there's not much into the main story. The meat of this is in the side quests.
Yeah.
And all of this is, there's a lot of sub hints of trauma, of depression, of some psychology issues that I think
I would call it more mature stuff. As
that's
opposed
what
to Chromie and Nostormo.
That's exactly what I want to get into. It's actually good storytelling. It's actually good writing. It's people who can actually write a cohesive character, make it feel like a real character that you and I can empathize with, as opposed to, I'm not even going to go to Chromie because that's a little bit exaggerated. Let's talk about Shadowlands. Let's talk about the character of Sylvanas being written. Let's talk about the character of the jailer being written. Let's talk about the character of Uther.
We're beating on a dead horse with Shadowlands.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. That's when the story didn't really feel like it was written by proper storytellers, like proper actual skill.
A parenthesis to what you're saying. So what Shadowlands and Dragonflight, and to an extent even Battle for Azeroth, lacked was the cohesive, clear direction for the narrative.
That's also true.
Right? So there were tidbits in Shadowlands that were awesome as stories. There were tidbits in Dragonflight that were awesome. The blue Dragonflight thing and all of that. You know, there were, you know, compartments over there that were awesome. But
Compartments is the key
yeah,
word.
exactly. There wasn't a clear direction. War Within felt like it had, you know, this guiding light. And I'm not saying it was Metzen, because it wasn't. Metzen jumped in like War Within was already pretty much done. He probably gave a couple of, you know, nudges. All right,
It probably just worked on making the world building be
Yeah.
cohesive and make sense and tie into the next couple of
but
expansions.
yes, what you said is definitely true. Right now, all of the stories, apart from like, you know, there's the quirky, funny ones, because, you know, that's
It's fine, like some
there's
Kobold stories, like
Kobold stories. Yeah, there's a couple in Dornogal as well. So you still have your quirky stuff happening, but like the big majority of what's been happening story-wise, quite for adults. I didn't feel like this was written for kids anymore. So I've definitely seen this has so not been the case in Dragonflight. I'm sorry if I keep going back to Dragonflight, but as you mentioned, like Dragonflight was the expansion that, you know, was the basis for okay, this is the big reset for WoW. Okay, we're making the game good. Yeah, we're making the game good again. You know, so you guys just go explore. Exploration and the wonder of that was fine in Dragonflight. Story was shit, but anyways, now you have this cohesive, big direction that is 100% coming from someone who is in charge. Remember, Dragonflight didn't have any creative director. That was when the Danuser left. So and Shadowlands had the Danuser over there, but, you know, not trying to bash the guy, but it didn't really work out, and they admitted as much. Blizzard admitted they fucked up Shadowlands.
Also, part of the Shadowlands, this connection between the players and the actual world was the actual story and the characters, because they didn't feel like real characters, similar to Dragonfly. Like, if you hear of Nosdormu's troubles, do you really relate to that? Where in the War Within, it's actual people. You actually feel like you relate. Like even people as disconnected to us like Earthen, because they're like machines, kind of, right?
Oh, but it's so cool.
Yeah, but
it's so relatable to us.
There are relatable things like, you know, being bound to rules that you thought you had to follow, but then you can actually, you know, follow your own thing. Like, people can relate to that, even if it's, you know, a little bit different, a little bit more abstract. You know what they're going through. It's like when they think of like, oh, I was always supposed to do this one thing, but it turns out that the right thing is not quite the thing that everybody told me to do. Like the Titans told them to, you know, follow their edicts and all of that stuff. So those little tidbits of characters feeling human, you know, even Earthens are dwarves. Yeah. But that actually pulled me into like actually be curious about what their story is and where they're going from, and the fact that they actually had an evolution from, oh, this is who we are, this is who we become, and you can be with us along the way to see how we evolve and, you know, become better or whatever we're going to become to, you know, tell the story of Warcraft.
Also, the fact that they implement this like real lifey situations and stories and wrap them up into the different interactions between them, and then this is with the Earthen, and this is also with the Ashkahet people. I didn't do a lot of side quests in Ashkahet.
I didn't finish it either. No.
So, but listen, like there was like a lot of stories and a lot of like even in Riggin Deeps and on the Isle. So like the fact that they have this big council and the council is broken up, and you have to like work through making everybody has their issues, and it gave me this vibe as, okay, this is getting a little bit more political now.
Yeah.
Right? And that's adult, that's mature. You wouldn't explain political shit or put political arcs as, you know, as simple as they are within a game like World of Warcraft, but that would never be something that you put into a game for kids. Okay, that's one thing. Then you go into it and you find out the reasons why each and every member of this council has its quarrels or has been, and that was so good. That felt not necessarily that I can relate to it, but I could understand it and can level with it at a, you know, some sort of like, okay, maybe I've seen this in different books at some point or different TV shows. The whole political struggle, that's one aspect of it. Then you go into actually discovering the culture of it. And the whole thing with their storm rooks. And that whole question as well, like the whole story, so everything has this nuance and this background to it that honestly, man, it wasn't there for I don't know when. I think Legion was the last one when every little thing had this big backbone onto it. That's what was not boring.
That's actually what I'm talking about. The actual character building. When you so it's famously, I think maybe Tolkien was one of the first ones to really do it right. When you write your world, but it's not yet in the books, right? When you write all of the rules, this is how you normally create a fantasy world. You write all of the rules to which this world functions, and then you create the story and you write the characters. You don't put everything into the book. You don't have to always explain because the rules are very consistent, and when things happen, they always happen because of the rules. So it's never a surprise to the player where you have to retcon things. This is how the Earthen have been written. People were like, okay, so these are the Earthen. They were made by the Titans. They have these edicts and they fly these rooks and they do all of that. Now, how do we create these quests and tell the players the story, and how would we break it down? So that actually played into you actually feeling attached, us feeling attached to the Earthen as a race, and why it's probably one of, even with Nightborn, it's probably still one of the best written allied race that we've had so far.
Yeah.
Nightborn kind of give it a run for its money, but it definitely feels like the Earthens are written by more skilled writers.
For sure. And mostly the team is more or less the same in that department with the narratives and stuff. But the major difference is, as I've said, there's a clear direction now.
Yeah.
And the fact that it is the World Soul Saga, it's kind of like telling, okay, there's a super big arc, then there's a big arc, and there's the smaller arcs but they all lead up. And speaking of, didn't you get the fact like, okay, we finished like, hopefully, we're not spoiling too much for anybody right now. I hope like if you're watching this, you're gonna get spoiled.
It's spoiled alert to the story, to the 4 out of 4 or 5.
Yeah, we're gonna get that. We're gonna get that. But before that, so you mentioned something about the Titans and how the Earthen basically wanted to like get out of that programming.
Yeah.
I could not help but feel that this time around the vibe was Titans bad, Titans no good. This started a while back, but this was
that's good.
Very subtle. It wasn't like 100 like in your face as it was in Dragonflight. Oh, the Titans messed you up. No, this was subtle.
See, you know why? Because the Earthens didn't tell me what I need to think about the Titans, which is what Dragonflight felt.
Hello.
When you have characters like Rezageth and the Primalist telling us how we should view the Titans, when people tell you how to think and how to feel instead of actually telling you, well, this is how it is. How do you feel about it? That's different. It's a wholly different vibe.
Yeah.
And when you
Just
see
subtlety, put it there.
Yeah, and you see the consequences of their actions and them following the edicts. You see it very early, as you say, with the council being broken down. When you fly down to the first little village and you see, I forgot the Stone Ward. I forgot her name, but is when Belgrim came to pick her back up and you got your duty to do. But these people are hurting, right? Our edicts are making us hurt our own people. That's the subtle political implication there. That,
among others.
Yeah, among others. So and then you feel as like, whoa, what? Well, if you have to follow your edicts and people are hurting, then clearly something's missing.
Yes,
there.
and I was trying to highlight this because I think part of the big story of the World Soul Saga is actually, finally unveiling the truth about the Titans. Because for the longest time when we played WoW, at least up until BFA, sort of, we believed that Titans were like, the ultimate beings of good, of everything, right?
It was very black and white.
Yeah, exactly. And now, without telling you in your face, but, subtly throwing it, okay, Titans, no bueno. And this maybe have a build-up because, well, the last Titan, I don't think that would be Azeroth. I don't think that's referring to Azeroth. I think.
I wonder if it's Garrus. But that's
well, wait, go into the speculation mode. But I think the build-up is already starting, and this is so cool to see because you have War Within, which starts from like the core of the planet. We're getting underground and stuff. We have Midnight, which is probably the culmination of whatever the fuck Xaladat is planning and dealing with the old gods and all of that. And then it all ends with the last Titan, whatever the fuck that means. But you can already see the seeds of that right now, and it's so cool that they actually are making it work, and not to your face. It's no fucking Firak or Iridikron telling you you're puppets of the Titans. Nobody says nothing bad about the Titans. Nothing. You just understand from what they're trying to do. They want to free themselves. They want to break tradition and all of that. And you get the idea that, hey, maybe the Titans weren't that good after all. It's kind of the same idea they wanted to do in Dragonflight, because there was all this whole thing
There's a big question
Titans bad, all that. But I like it a lot more here, and I feel as if they just give this little bit of a nudge just for you to like be even more expecting of this as the expansion goes on, as you get into the World Soul Saga even more.
Another reason for that is because you empathize a lot with the Earthen, because they're very flawed and they're very weak.
True.
As a race, you're there to help them, and you see how unprepared they are to deal with what's happening. They feel like children that you have to babysit. Obviously, their cognitive functions are limited to being very automated and to be very cold and uncalculated. So they don't have the emotional evolution to deal with Xalatath's manipulation and the motivations of the Nerubians and all of that. And they don't understand. Like, there's this awesome question, which I think you did do the Lamplighter with the Earthen, right? Isles of Dorn.
I don't remember.
If you finish it, there's this lamplighter that came from Arathi to investigate a crime with his buddies.
No, I didn't do that. That's my last one.
Oh my god, I can't believe
shut up.
I won't spoil
Shut
it.
up.
But that's where
I'll kill you.
that's where you get to see like how the Earthens are learning to, let's say, for lack of a better word, to be more human. And that's
beautiful.
Really, really, really cool.
Beautiful. Now, also, like, okay, there's a lot of like side quests. You haven't done them all. I did not in Ashka Head.
Yeah.
I haven't done them all, but the ones that we did, we were impressed. Now, let's talk a little bit about the main story we follow.
All right.
Okay, because after that pre-patch event, we all remember the pre-patch event. This was quite a turnaround. Sure, you can talk about the early access and blah blah blah. They kind of fucked up on that front. I agree. They kind of fucked up. They shouldn't they shouldn't have touched that, at least after like the season started, with the experience and all of that and the level scaling.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of problems there. We could probably have like a different video or different topic about
yeah. So they clearly fucked up, and basically they confirmed the advantage for the early access people, regardless. Into it from the story, like, with the whole Dalaran situation, Xalatath, Illyria, Khadgar. That's how we started. Let's see where we are, right? So
spoilers.
Yeah, well, this is the first part of the story, right? So obviously now we know that Xalatath was like, all planning along, typical old god fashion, void fashion.
This is okay. Before you go on, because I want to point this out how good this is. It was written good as a. So if you want to write a character that's manipulating everything, this is how you do it. You don't create the jailer and you say, oh, it was him all along, but there was never any signs because, he wasn't planned to be him all along in the story. But now the story started with Xalatath being behind all of it all along from the get-go. And that's why it feels like it makes sense when she's manipulating. When she was, I forgot, the Archmage in the Dalaran that duped everybody.
Yeah. Oh, that shit was great. That shit was great. Yeah, and with the transformation.
That's
awesome.
So good, dude.
Awesome.
So that's what I mean, right? That's how you properly write a character. That's why I was so upset with how they written Sylvanas and particularly the jailer, because I just have to accept it because you're telling me.
No, it was very different, and I'm pretty sure they have confirmed that they learned from the past, and they want, and you see it clearly all over the game. Xalatath is present like at every step, so she's cooking. She's cooking a lot. But like when we started this whole journey in the world within, not going to go through all of the details, but basically Dalaran got blew the fuck up, killing Khadgar with it, right? And that got blew the fuck up onto the Isle of Dorn, and that's how we got there. Now, obviously, everybody was sad that Khadgar died. Some of us were spoiled through data mining and all of that, but Khadgar, for at least what we knew and the characters knew, he was dead.
Yeah.
But the animation of it, didn't really feel like he was completely dead. You didn't see destruction. Yeah, it was just absorbed into the void.
Do the variant comparison. Because you told me about the variant comparison.
But
that's the first thing that came to my mind, because he was starting to get disintegrated. I was like, oh, that's how Varian died, another beloved character that was like a role model to certain other characters. But you see him go boom. Yeah. You don't see Khadgar go boom.
Yes, that's the main difference. I've seen a variant comparison with Anduin later on, but that's different. There was a not a pre-rendered one, in-game one, where he jumped off the ship and tried to. That was so reminiscent of Variant. Sure. I loved it to death, man. I loved it to death. But anyways, we got into that, and then obviously we got it thrown into the story within all of the zones over there, Hollowfall and Ringing Deeps and Ashka Head, and we went through all of the places and started doing the little stories. Hey, they cut off from you.
So just love sharing.
but it was this big looming thought of, did Khadgar really die? I didn't believe he died because it wasn't graphically, it wasn't, really.
I was too afraid to hope, but I like that they kept me in the limbo, because that feeling of anxiety was like, is he dead? Is he not? Is he dead? Is he not? They could go either way. And we know in the past that even if they feed a certain narrative, let's say they leave us breadcrumbs that he's alive, they could still just decide, like, oh, fucking no, just kill him out, just kill him out. We had that happen in the past, so I never really put him behind them to actually trust their little breadcrumbs and leaving us like, okay, he's not really dead. You don't really see a body.
Exactly.
You only see his arm go in. That doesn't really tell you anything.
Well, we didn't get to the second part of the story, but I just want, once you get into the second part of the story, which basically was this week, or this was
the last part.
The last part, the third part, whatever. I would go on to put a big W onto the whole fighting sequence. Like when you get down into the actual war, where there's the golems, where there's a lot of like Nerubians
the
fighting.
wall, yeah.
Okay, and compare that to the fight sequence you had in Mirdrasil at the end of the campaign, where you had the little everybody gathered up, and dude, they created in game. So this is an actual good story element put into game. There's a war and you're in it and you felt it. There was like destruction all over the place. You fought out mobs who were like dying. They weren't dying easily.
And it makes sense. Well, I want to say this before you go on. It makes sense because you've made a very good comparison with the Mirdrasil. From a war perspective, it makes sense. That's a strategic point, and it's obviously conveniently strategic because they built Hallowfall to be that way. But it's a strategic point in the wall that holds off the Nerubians from going into Hallowfall and essentially, going to Beladar or whatever their aim would be. So that would make a lot of sense for that point to be attacked by Nerubians and for eventually being a distraction.
It was smart, but the vibe was I felt I was actually part of a fight, of a big battle. As opposed to like a lot of million different situations where you would war around with other NPCs and you would see fights, but it was so like the one in the Mirdrasil, you would just go over there, fly, ring a horn, and then
those felt like mandatory, obligatory quests.
Yeah, this one felt meaty. It felt like I was there and I was making a difference. Very different, right? Very, very different. Now, were we expecting I wouldn't call it a conclusion, because I think we're far from a conclusion for Anduin. But boy, did they deliver on Anduin's struggle. Because throughout the questing campaign, looking at Anduin, he really struggled a lot with finding his foot. Like even from the BlizzCon cinematic, the War Within cinematic, right? Where you've seen him like torn apart. He's a shallow of a man. And, it was kind of, it was not man doing anymore. It was different doing.
A different doing.
But the journey he had, because there was like moments where he would try to tap into like, remember like the first time you step into Hallowfall and you had to go with Farron and, lamp up all of the towers and stuff. And he tried it, but he was scared of it, or, he had this like second thought. He was running away from it. I came to understand later on. Yeah. But his conclusion, man. Like, dude, when you got to that.
Let's before you get into that.
I just want to jump into it.
Let's build to it a little bit more. So
some people played it.
The reason, but it's important. So the reason Khadgar died was to fuel Illyria's seek for vengeance, because that's also part of her character development, because you cannot have a lot of power without some flaw, and her flaw was her falling down to the vengeance part. It's like, oh my god, it was because of me. I have to avenge Khadgar.
Turalian, stay here, my love. I will come back.
So she had to go on this whole crusade, which obviously, at the beginning of the Ashkehead scenario, she dials down, was like, oh my god, I was probably wrong.
I felt like Illyria just went off all the fucking on herself all the goddamn time.
It was a little.
I like the character, but I felt they did it wrong.
Yeah, but that's fine. That was important for her to go through that. And what character was it that pointed that out? That was very ironic, that she was actually doing what she said that was not good to do, and then she was like, "Fuck, okay, whatever." And then she turns back and then goes back, and you do the prior request line where everything is dark. And you build to it, and Farron is just there. I feel like that's such a good supportive character role to do. Farron was just giving everybody hope. She was lighting the path.
And you also called her to like help out. It's like
and what I actually liked, and thank God, hopefully we have more of these quests, is she did the lamp lighting. It doesn't always have to be me, the character, that's like, oh, light the lamps, sweep the floors. Like, my character can actually do paladin stuff, and I'm a mage. That doesn't make sense. So it makes more sense for me as a mage, for you as a DK to make
I was
room.
a fucking DK. What the
make
hell?
room for Farron. She's the paladin. She's gonna light the lamps, and we're just gonna hold everything off. So while she does her paladin thing that needs to be done, not us doing it because we're the main character. And then you go through, and this is how I felt essentially. You go through all the quests, and then Zaltath comes up, siphoning up Belladar,
Berldar.
blah, blah, blah. And then she's siphoning it all into the dark heart, and Alira is like, oh, we meet again. And Zaltath, oh, again you're shooting at me. Again I'm shooting at you. But I'm not actually shooting at you. I'm shooting at your dark heart. Plot twist, and then it breaks, and then Khadgar flies out. So then, then there's that moment. There's that moment. It's like, oh my God, yes, he's not dead. And then, because there was also that whisper. She remembers like, this is not the real fight.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he managed to like speak with her through the void.
I think it was just more her remembering his words, or maybe
I think he made because he was basically in some sort of like a void limbo prison.
Yeah, parallel void dimension.
But managed to communicate with her. And he like when he got out, right? He said something along the lines.
He congratulated her.
Yeah. So you choose the right fight, or this was not the fight, something like that. And then he like, he was dead.
But this is where we're getting to the important moment. I think this is how you write an emotional moment. He's back, and you're like, oh my God, yes. And then he's slightly dying, and you're like, oh my God, no. Oh my God, no. And then everybody's silent. And then you see Anduin is like, no, no.
You know what's gonna happen when you see Anduin's face,
and you think it's like, oh, this is his moment. That feeling when you see it is like, we have played for 8 hours of Anduin questline to get to this moment, and he does the moment thing.
That was for me like I'm not gonna bullshit you. I shed a tear for that moment, because it's such a relatable thing. Like when you have like a broken man finally finding his strength or his courage to do something, so altruistic, so beyond him, right? So something that would be like totally against his broken state, and actually like call forward finally the light,
realizing that was his moment.
It was
everybody
magic.
Gets a moment, everybody gets their point, and fate comes and say, okay, this is you, now it's you have to do it. And it felt like nobody said anything. There was no overarching narrative telling us what this is. You knew when you were looking at it, you saw his face, you saw how they beautifully, masterfully animated his emotions on his face, and he knew he had to do it. He had to heal, to put the light back into Khadgar, because this was not his time. We still needed him. Everybody wanted him alive. This is not going to be a stereotypical mentor death that fuels everybody and he becomes a martyr, right? This is not it.
No.
And he stepped up.
It was emotional as fuck for me. Just once again, seeing it happen and finally making that conclusion to, well, it was a semi-conclusion, because he's not just there yet. Like, I think who asked him? Farron asked him, like, okay, so you finally made your peace with the light.
Well, that's good, because we don't want like a moment. It's like, okay, we're fixed.
We're done.
It's done.
Yeah, no. It's good. It's good in that sense, because once again, there's still things to be uncovered with him, and that's really cool. Can you believe we're actually talking this much about the story and the quest and stuff?
This
hasn't happened like since ever. But this is why it's so good. And I think we missed a good point, because I remembered it. Like, dude, the queen of Ashkahet.
I don't want to talk about it because you haven't done what I told you to do.
Yeah, but I've seen her, so I've seen like she's a big bug, transformed and stuff, and I saw that a little bit into like the campaign quest, and then I saw her.
Yeah, we fight her there. Yeah,
and the moment that okay, I keep hitting her because I'm an idiot, I'm a DK, but the story was I stopped hitting her because she was like her.
She didn't die.
Yeah, I don't know if.
Well, no. If you look at her her character model,
they take her. Yeah, they take her. Yeah, I know
she stays with 2 HP. She's clearly, because normally they write out the character.
What I really liked about it was like she's a big ass monster now, basically controlled by the void, and she was fighting her own will to like do something. I felt that was really cool, and they didn't really send off a character like that, because you really like, apart from like the Harbinger type cinematic where you saw the story with I forgot her name, her daughter Ansarek, right? You saw that whole moment. And after that, it was like, okay, she's dead. That's fine. But then you find out she's not actually dead. She's
You know what this
transformed.
reminds me of? Of the Thalyssra cinematic back in Nighthold, where she got stabbed, but you saw her corpse, or
Yeah.
her body being thrown into the water, and then we find her washed up, right? And that's what happened to Nephris. I think the name is.
Nephris. Yes.
I'm not gonna spoil this part for you, but we'll see
You
how.
want
the
me
story
to leave a little bit so you can talk to people?
No, because if there's not gonna be a conversation, because it's a lot of speculation. But yeah, it's really good that they and it was part of side quest for this sidebar for this the devotion that certain Nerubians have for the queen.
Oh, I
like
love
the
that.
Weaver.
Oh, I
the
love
respect that they have. You could actually feel the respect with the questline that you do with Voss and the Ascended One. It's like,
I
don't
love
talk
that.
about my queen that way.
Yeah.
That was so cool.
Perfect. I just love that they introduced that society with the Nerubians and the fact that there's a faction that is basically, a counter-offensive to whatever the fuck is happening. It's basically a militia, an anti-establishment party that is with the actual I would say the queen line and stuff. I love that, and I actually love the character of the queen, that the spider that's hanging,
The Weaver.
The Weaver. Yeah. That I love her character, the way she speaks,
It
the way
reminds me not the same, but it reminds me a little bit of Daddy Denathrius, where she's
she has
very
some Denathrius.
intelligent,
Yeah, she has some
She has
Denathrius.
spies.
Yeah.
She has a lot of wit. And
Yes.
she plays with the conversation, the way she's written. That's what I mean when there's good writing. The dialogue is so well written. You feel like she knows more than she's telling you. She probably knows way more than you know, and than what everybody else knows. And it's very hard to write smart
They
characters.
do have a lot of eyes. Spiders, I mean. They can definitely go for it. Yeah, so up until this point, I would say, like, whatever experience, at least what experience we had within the game, not rushing to get all of your gear on par. That came along pretty naturally, and I think we still have time to gear up even the 3 or 4 alts at 580, no problemo. I felt there wasn't that pressure to just go in and chew all the content as fast as possible so you can be ready for season 1. Didn't feel that pressure at all. I felt like if I would play the game at my own pace, which is decent, I can still be able to enjoy everything that the game offers, story-wise and mechanics-wise, and also be able to, have that minimum 580 to start doing raiding with the guild once the season starts next week. That was such a huge breath of fresh air.
WoW has to be more than just grinding for the gear.
Yeah.
And it has been just grinding for the gear because we didn't really have a lot of other stuff to like about the game for a long time.
Yeah,
And
that was the game, man. That was the game. That's what they transformed it. Whenever the story and characters did not work anymore, all you had to rely on was the actual season mechanic, basically.
Fun fact. This is why most people like Final Fantasy, because it's all about the story and the building of the characters and all of that. There's very little emphasis on the actual gear. Sure, it's not the same game, and I'm not saying that it's better, but this is probably why we can probably understand why so many people are attracted to Final Fantasy when the story is good, when the characters are good, and you get invested into it.
It's also very weird to have an actual very cool, coercive, super immersive narrative story within an MMO. When you think an MMO traditionally, it's basically a big sandbox of a place where a lot of people meet up to do things together. Right? Now, that could be a whole plethora of things. So the fact that, Final Fantasy is a good example, but I feel...
by the way, just to point what you're going to say, even with Final Fantasy, to my knowledge, all of the stories, a lot of it is single player-ish focused. So you don't, there's not a lot of socializing while you do the story, as far as I was able to play my limited time.
Yeah.
So it makes sense that, what you're saying is that MMO are not really good medium to still really deep stories.
I'm not saying they're not a good medium. I'm just saying, traditionally, when you're thinking of an MMO, you don't really expect a big-ass, cool story. So, WoW, for the longest time, did not have big-ass, cool stories. What they did have is big-ass, cool, epic moments. It's a big difference. WoW never had, a cool from A to Z story that kept you captivated and hooked on, every character. And what they did really good and great, actually, was the epic moments, right? And obviously you can think about, Sargeras stabbing Azeroth, you have Garrosh becoming all this shine-infested monster, and there's even more moments like this in the past. But story-wise, apart from a couple of cool characters in the past, you didn't have a complete A to Z story. Now, what they're trying to do here, what I feel they're trying to do here, is actually going for this A to Z story. And again, it feels very weird for us to talk about this for almost an hour now, because this is really not the type of content we're into. We're not really into the stories and characters and quests or whatever.
We used
to be, but you know, that part of the game died for us quite a long time ago. Now, I don't know what the hell I'm going to do, because, you know, obviously I'm excited for the new raid.
You know what you're going to do? You're going to keep getting into the story, and you cannot wait to see how the hell we're going to get into the Nerobar raid.
Oh my God. Yes, the raid now will feel so much better with the whole story backing it up.
That's why a lot of people like Nighthold as well as one of the best raids in Legion, because it was the build-up with all the Suramar storyline.
Oh my God, Suramar. Whoa, good times, good lovely times.
Adjacent to all of this story, I think it's criminal that we don't mention the music, because I feel...
Oh, hell yeah. They fucked up the music for the longest time. Not fucked up, because it was decent.
The music was always good, yeah.
But no. But listen. Okay, you want to talk about music, you know, that's a different department, buddy boy. So WoW, in the most part of the expansions, had killer-ass music. Yeah. Killer. It was decent and good in BFA. It was decent and good in Shadowlands. It was decent and good in Dragonflight. But the killer tracks and bangers were not there. At least not in all the 3 expansions I mentioned. I had killer soundtrack in Wrath of the Lich King. I had killer soundtrack in Cataclysm. I had killer soundtrack in MoP. Warlords of Draenor. Now we're back to killer soundtrack.
No, that's one. Okay, keep going, because I have something else to say.
Dude, the moment I went into Hollowfall, but you have to imagine, I loved the soundtrack in all zones, but yes, in Hollowfall, that is also packed with the amazing visuals.
Oh yeah, for sure.
All of that.
It's the most relatable zone.
Yeah, exactly. But once you get into it, so you have the visuals and that music starts kicking in, you start to think to yourself, this is why I love World of Warcraft. It's not about the raids, the Mythic Plus. No, it's about this goddamn world that they managed to it's the escapism properly done. Because at the end of the day, video games are escapism. You want to get off your, the regular realities of your life or whatever.
It's the advantage. This is how you take advantage of a video game to tell a story as opposed to a book. Because people compare books and other mediums of telling stories, and they always say the book is always the best thing, but there are definitely advantages to doing it in another medium, one of which being in a video game, that's you get to do these things that you cannot experience in a book. Now, I do agree that if, let's say, the best track in WoW was a 10, we're within, for me, easily reach 11, 12, 13. That's fine. But what actually impressed me the most is the amount of tracks and the way they switch based on your... Switch?
It's switch.
The way they switch based on your quest level, the danger level that you're facing, and the part of the zone that you are in. It's unbelievable that you are in Hollowfall. You have one track at the top of the ridge and one track when you're down in the rivers.
One track when it's light, one track when it's dark.
Oh my God. And it all matches. It actually gets you into the vibe. This is why I've recommended people to just turn off your music. Just let WoW
turn off Spotify for a moment. Come on.
Just play with the sound. Just do Hollowfall, and especially the campaign, and Ashkehead particularly. And when you get into the creepy zones of Ashkehead, that's when the creepy music starts to play. And when you're in the city, that's when a more busy, more lifelike music starts to play. It's all so well crafted. I couldn't understand that I'm actually playing this. I haven't felt this amount of passion towards details, not even in games like Witcher, in terms of music. In terms of music, Witcher is good, but it's an older game too.
It's great.
But
Witcher 3, you're talking about Witcher 3?
Yeah, Witcher 3. The amount of
amazing music.
Yeah. But what I'm saying is that the amount of attention to detail in terms of music, this is I probably didn't play all of the good RPGs out there yet. This is probably number one or close. It comes very close. I would dare say it even trumps Baldur's Gate 3.
And they have renowned for. Yeah.
But it's not about the quality of the music. It's about what track plays and what kind of track plays when you're doing a different type of activity.
I get you for sure.
Blew my mind.
I agree. They up their game in terms of connecting all of the different tracks, setting the mood for each and every part of the game you're in. Zone, situation, fights, NPCs, following a story, all of that. It's beautiful. It's one theme when you go into the orphanage thing in Hallowfall. It's another thing when you go to the beach of Hallowfall and start looking for the Corbies and all of that. So it's yeah, they really, but they could have done this like with each and every other expansion.
For sure, they could have.
What also really pushes the level here is the actual compositions. Like the actual music itself is good, because you can have a creepy theme, you can have like a childish theme, you can have like a tavern-like theme or whatever, epic, whatever. But no, the instruments used, the actual compositions themselves, perfection. Now, what I feel sad is, I know a lot of people went into this expansion and they played it as each other expansion. The difference was you didn't really get anything this expansion. Like if you played this expansion expecting what you expected in Dragonflight, in Shadowlands, in BFA, the new best thing, there was none of that.
You missed out on about 70%.
Yeah, and I think some people would have felt disappointed because it was basically the same game. They didn't get anything. No hero talents yet. You just have to level through and you just blazing it through. So you get more talents. There's this expansion. At least the start of it gives you nothing in terms of new gameplay. It's the same game as Dragonflight.
You level, you do
it's
quests,
the same shit.
Level renown.
Yes, the main difference is that the story and the characters,
the quality of the experience is unparalleled.
This is one of the sad. And you cannot really blame people for this, because this is how they created the game.
That's how they were trained.
Yeah, they got used to playing the game this way, and it's a sad state of affairs. But honestly, I feel sad for those who just skip through everything and didn't really pay attention to any of it, because once again, if you're gonna play WoW a seasonal game that it is, that's fine. We played it like that for the longest time.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with adding a little bit of spice into your game, because let's face it, if you do play WoW competitively at some level, you really don't play any other games. I mean, that's a rare situation, where most players that play WoW, do keys, do raids, mythic progression, don't really play other games because they really don't have the time or the energy or the patience for it.
It's a very specific game.
So when you play the game, just rushing to get your gear to get ready for the season start. When you play this game just for that gear rush and progressing as much as possible, I believe at some point you either get burned out or you get bored. It's inevitable. There's very rare occasions where you would feel like the urge to keep doing the same old thing over and over and over. Why not just add this little bit of spice right now when there's really nothing else to do? Just enjoy the little side quests, the dailies, the events. I love all the events. It's even talking about those, right, with the theater, which is a little bit of
I haven't done the theater. I'm such a
it's stupid, it's quirky, but it's fine. It gives another angle to these.
This is a good point to make, because I feel like this ties into a lot of things that happen in Dragonflight as well, where people are calling the game bad, and they're not necessarily wrong, but they're not necessarily right either, because they opted to play in a certain way, and that's fine. Listen, people who decide that the game for them is to level up and do all of the dungeons, get all the eye level, max out their tunes, maybe level up another one and do the same thing all over again. If that's how you play WoW, that's perfectly fine. You're the one buying it, because I see people, they're coming into our streams, they're in the chat right now commenting in it, and that's fine if you play that way, but you make that choice. And it's not like Marcelian said, you're not wrong for making that choice, because for the longest time there's nothing else what to do.
That's how
but
you know
now
how to play it.
You're legit missing out in actually playing the RPG part of an MMORPG, which is going through the quest, listening to the music, getting immersed into the zones, because you're gonna end up spamming dungeons and getting eye levels and upgrading gear for a year and a half from now on, continuously.
It's gonna be the same thing over and over and over.
Now
again.
is the time to actually, detach from that and actually experience what the game could also be, because I do feel like players need to be trained into what good WoW can be, because WoW has been good for a long time. It hasn't been amazing, and it wasn't as good as it is now, but it has been good for a long time. But people didn't really want to see it because it wasn't parts of the WoW that they cared about. But that's fine, but you get to choose what parts of WoW you care about. So we advise you to actually go into the game, listen to the music, watch the zones. I actually took print screens with my UI turned
Me
off.
too.
I put them in Photoshop and I did a little like color tweaking, and now they're my wallpapers.
Oh yeah, I didn't went as far as that, but I always take screenshots of like new zones and new characters. Get across to new expansions.
Yeah.
Well, see, is this the best expansion ever? Like, if you think about it from the point of view of what's coming new in this expansion, I mean, dude, it's. Dragonflight was not a bad expansion.
No.
Dragonflight basically put back...
It revolutionized the backbone of the game, which is systems, which are the talents came back, professions were revamped, we completely moved from proper reputation to renown. We had the renown in Shadowlands, but it was not reputation, it was like a totally different thing. It got melded into reputation in Dragonflight.
That's cool.
We've had open world events that felt very community, which to be fair, we actually don't have that much in the World Within.
Yeah, we do.
We don't have the great hunts anymore where you have like 50 people.
Do the teether, my friend.
Oh, is that the theater? All right, then we have that in Dragonflight and the World Within as well.
This is what's called parenthesis here. The events now are in every zone, and each event has its own flavor, like really cool. Every event has its flavor, and that's cool. I'm closing the parenthesis. Carry on.
Yeah, but that's so all of these backbone parts of WoW have been built up, and unfortunately, Dragonflight didn't put the meat on the bones. Just
You
yet.
didn't have the epic moments, and even like the non canon lore people that even those are expecting an epic moment at some point, because they've been through that.
That's
okay.
what
They don't care about the
MMOs
story.
are.
They this is again how they got used to playing the game. Yeah, I don't care about the story, but after I killed the last mythic boss, that's a cool cinematic. That was part of it. They would expect that was not happening in Dragonflight.
Nope.
Dragonflight was the basis for making the game feel good again. Now, War Within is Dragonflight, but now added with the epic moments. We already had a couple of epic moments just leveling through. I cannot wait to see what the fuck will happen after we kill.
Oh, there's so much more to talk about. And I did want to answer a little bit your question when you said, is this the best expansion? Obviously, it's too early to tell. And
yes, it is.
We're definitely gonna be back. What is it? 2 months from now, when we're probably going, I don't know, halfway through Mythic, when we are.
Yeah, we're gonna shit on this expansion once the season starts. I'm telling you, it's gonna
All right,
show its problems.
Hopefully not, but there's a good chance that we might. But talking about the experience so far, because it's very hard to say, is this the best expansion? Because everybody just defaults either to Wrath or to Legion or to MOP or to TBC and stuff like that.
Why?
It's very hard to rival emotional and personalized characters like Arthas and Illidan and the Burning Legion and stuff like that. It's
And
very hard to
Yamama.
rival that. But if we're gonna take these at face value and take the skill of the writing and the skill of the storytelling, the skill of the music and the exploration and the pacing, this probably is one of the best. As someone who really involves itself into stories and other RPGs, I really love Baldur's Gate 3, Witcher 3, stuff like that. This is one of the best stories ever told in WoW, even if the characters are not the biggest, the ones the variants, the Guldans and all of that stuff. Even if those are not the characters, these are the best written characters that I have played in so far for me. So from that perspective, this is probably the best expansion they've done.
That, and also the fact that Dragonflight laid down again a basis of good gameplay mechanics. Professions were much more interesting and involved. They matter once again. You can craft a lot of good gear for yourself, for your guildies, to make some gold or whatever. The War Within introduced like the NPC crafting orders, which are really cool because that will help you out a lot. Sure, hero talents are basically more talents, so that's not really a feature that the War Within would bring on. You have the delves, you have the war banks as well, that is pretty huge. Like you can basically level like a lot of alts now with ease. The more alts you level, the better it is. The more experience you get, for your alts. So that's really cool. The war bound gear. So gearing alts is also much
From your
more
main.
much
When
from
were
your
you
main.
able to do
No,
this?
it was never a thing, and we complained about all the alt situations, but just forgetting about that. So how is the game mechanically? It's once again, it's basically Dragonflight with even more like quality of life touches added onto it. Obviously, when the season will start, you will see the problems with the tuning in Mythic Plus, in the raid probably. Those will always be there, and as opposed to like other expansions in the past, you don't really have that new banger system introduced that will completely changed your gameplay or altered your journey into WoW, even playing in a seasonal matter, seasonal type of gameplay. That is not there. So this is why I'm like stressing out here. Like we still have a week until the season starts. It's like the best time to just even go and level your alts and still like pay attention to the stories and the characters and whatnot, and not go to next and just rush it all up. It's not that expansion. That used to be Dragonflight. That used to be Shadowlands. That used to be BFA, Legion. That used to be it because you wanted to get to that carrot on the stick. This time you don't have a carrot on the stick. You're the stick and the carrot is the story.
Somebody's a carrot here.
Yeah, no, the carrot is the story, and all the carrot. And again, it gives you so much more because for us at least, it's a great anticipation for actually stepping into the raid and seeing how the story continues.
Just a little quick parenthesis to what you're saying. You know how it feels like the world is finally a character again. Like what a lot of people were talking about vanilla.
Yes.
The story, the world, the music, the zones,
I missed that so much. I missed that. I just, just getting back into the world, and the world is being made out of, the little characters and little quests and side quests and all the NPCs. Like even like, listen, man, there's like even funny fucking dialogue. If you go through like the cities and just stay a little while, and there's like dialogue between people and stuff. Those are like funny as hell and like really like nice touches. Definitely need to pay attention to those. Again, I'm not expecting like for all who play like super hardcore this game to like be aware of that, but really you don't really have to rush for anything. Like all of the gear you have right now, from the renown, from crafting, that's gonna be shit in a week after the season starts. You're gonna replace that as fast as possible because it's fucking 580 something. Maybe you're 590. Okay, hooray! That will go out the water when you start your normal and heroic raid, and then you start going to like mythic and pushing keys higher and higher. So it doesn't really matter. It's not like in the past where you would just have to rush to be like super prepared and all. It's not that anymore, unless you're part of like, I don't know, Method or Echo. Sure,
that's different.
That's very different. It's basically your livelihood at that point. But enjoying the game is, I think, the most important thing. And if you're not enjoying the game because you feel like, but this is nothing new. This is basically like last expansion. What is this?
This could be
bad.
This could be very subjective, but we were conditioned to actually care about like the only thing that really mattered in WoW is the practical uses, the practical rewards, and what you got out of your hour. Like I spent 3 hours. Am I getting my money's worth out of those 3 hours? How much eye level did I acquire? How much currency did I gather? Like we were trained to be that way, kind of like little pet monkeys ever since most likely Legion with the artifact power, and then evolving into more degenerate systems later on. And it felt like that was the game. For the longest part, those were the things that mattered, and we kind of stopped enjoying the good things. There were not very many good things to enjoy outside of that. I mean, there were. I'm not gonna trash it. There's plenty of good stuff. But if we want WoW to be a better game and to take us into the future of what WoW could be, we have to start being trained in a different way, right? We have to start actually enjoying different things in WoW. My opinion about this subjectively is that now we can actually start to care about other things. Maybe start to care about renown is kind of like a byproduct, but talking with all the little, doing all the little quests and gathering all the little data from the characters, and actually just be in a world that's alive, and just having that urge, like Marcelian said, to actually log in as like, oh my god, I want to see what quests they put back today into the game. I want to see if that farmer gets his kid back or whatever, right? So those little things kind of really were not important for the longest time, and they're probably not going to be as important, once the season starts. But until then, and whenever they add little tidbits of story, I actually care about the world that I'm in, and I'm not just logging into this zone and then I'm just going through
doing your chores,
5 loading screens, and I just live my life in an instant part of World of Warcraft, which is either a Mythic Plus or a raid.
Now, there is one problem though with the story, and
we're talking about it?
We both have noticed it. So the story is good. I like all of the characters. I cannot not observe that there are quite lacking male characters like with an impact. I feel like all of the male characters so far are very problematic, very quirky, or incapable of anything. Now, once again, I feel like how they wrote all of the female characters is great. I have no problem with that. I just would love at some point to bring back at least a couple of male characters. And my hope is for Anduin. My hope is that they build him up to be like a proper male, stoic, heroic, adventurous male, because that really would translate to at least some part of the demographic, right? And I feel like maybe they went a little bit too far with all of the female characters or the the genderless character or whatever they are. Why not give us some at least one or two? Because I feel like all of if you look at it, all of the male looking characters all have like super problems, or they're not doing good, or and the female ones always kind of tend to get the job done, which is fine. Once again, that's not a problem. I just feel like there's too much of that. Why not put some balance into it?
We're switching the balance the other way around, because obviously for the longest time gaming has been very male centric, because the majority of the player base, and still
that's
is
also a problem.
Is majority of
that's also
and
a problem.
that was kind of boring in the end. Like we wanted talking about old school WoW stories and old school characters. I actually really like Sylvanas and Jhin. I was like, I wanted to see more of that, because it felt like WoW was missing some female energy. And we got a lot of that, and we still have it, and it's great. But now we're missing male energy.
It's like gone. Yeah, that's the truth. So it tilted all the way to that part, and you cannot not notice it. You cannot not. I'm not saying go back to have all the Garroshels and variants and everybody's
not
that. Okay, not
the
talking
variants,
about that.
the pre Dragonflight Khadgar was also really cool.
Oh yeah,
he was the wise grandfather that had the life experience, been through all of the wars and all of that stuff.
On the other hand, you had expansions like Warlords of Draenor, where it was very very masculine,
filled.
Very filled.
I grew an extra ball.
That was on your neck. It was different in the sense that it made sense for more or less savage time in the history of WoW, right? So you had characters like Irel over there, for example, but they were few.
Oh my god, she was one of my favorite characters.
Yeah, exactly. So what we're trying to say is maybe it's time, as the expansion goes further and further, and we get to see some more development arcs for characters. I would love to see some, Magni, man. We haven't talked about Magni.
Oh my god,
the return of Magni. Magni, as we
but that's the problem with how they're writing Magni too, because he's just very upset with Azra. Well, he was very upset with Azra at the beginning. Like, oh my god, what did she have me do? And now
that was another epic moment, by the way.
Yeah, when he when he saved all the Earthen.
Yes.
That was cool. But all of the other time was just him being dragged along by Moira, and that's fine. Moira is actually one of the coolest.
I love her.
Female characters. She's the I don't know if this is right to say, but she actually feels like the mother, right?
She has the motherly thing, yeah, for
she
sure.
knows how to teach Dagran, to lead Dagran, but also giving him the freedom to explore his curiosities and living into the world. She knows how to keep her father in check with his old habits and old ideas and all of that stuff. She's grounded, right? She feels like she knows the world that she lives in, and has her diplomatic skills, her political skills, where she
That's
works.
cool. That's cool.
And I think that's. Dude, they wrote her so good. She works behind all of the dialogues in Isle of Dorn to get the council together. It's she's
beautiful.
So good,
Beautiful
man.
stuff, yeah,
I love that stuff. I just want Belgrim felt like one of the few ones, but he felt a little bit.
It wasn't convincing.
No, he wasn't. He had a journey of being super hard-headed into his own edict stuff, and then he finally became a martyr, which sets the story to go forward. But it was not like a character that you could follow.
Not necessarily. It's quite visible, man. We cannot not notice it. It's very visible, and our hope is that they maybe correct the course on this and at least give us a couple of interesting male characters as well. Because so far, apart from Anduin, which is he's still pretty down, he's still pretty depressed, and he has his struggles.
There's the in the Ashkahet with the little generals that you collect. There's the Anubarak one. I forgot his name.
Yeah,
he's also really cool. He has that.
Oh, he has
he
cool.
has so much potential.
Very
to be
cool, but he's
character.
I want a character like a male character who's actually really impactful. We have Farron, we have Lyra, we have a lot of Moira, a lot of female characters. I went all around with Thrall.
as a Horde player, how much did you see the Horde in this expansion?
That's fine. I am not gonna go there. I know what you're trying to say. I'm not gonna
But
go
I'm
there.
talking about that they could definitely use Thrall for more stuff.
Exactly. It was interesting to see the Horde and Alliance coming together on their ships and, you know, being buddies and stuff. Listen, man, the whole Horde versus Alliance thing, like,
No, I don't mean it that way. I meant as in, well, a little bit Horde representation. I mean, as an Alliance
I
player,
know what you're
I
saying.
couldn't feel like there was like, where's the Horde? The Horde is just there collecting supplies, while the others. I don't want Horde to be better than Alliance or anything like that. I just want them to feel like they're involved. There's so many good leaders in the Horde that it can be used as characters to build our campaign in the World Within, and I feel like they didn't really even use Thrall at all, with the exception of the
criminally underused.
the Stormrook. That was when.
But
the
even then, it wasn't convincing. He was like a support character.
Yeah,
over
but-
there. The center stage on that quest line was the chick
Lufthansa, Luftstala,
Lufthansa,
the new
the
Stormlord.
airplane company. Yeah,
Yeah,
Lufthansa. That was her.
the new Stormlord. But it felt like that's if you want to use old characters and not make them center stage because you want to bring new characters. I feel like they've used Thrall well, where they used his wisdom in handling the storms and being in tune with the elements and teaching that to the next generation, which is Lufthansa, the Stormlord.
Natürlich.
And it felt like he was more than just a Horde leader. It felt like he was a shaman. It felt like he was wise and had something to impart. And that's, if you want to do stuff like Khadgar that way, that's probably how you want to do it. But, you know, add
There's
more.
still a lot of like male characters who can be done right for, and I'm hoping they will address this because once again it feels overwhelmingly like all the female characters are all righteous and doing the right thing, while the male characters are just dumb. And it, you know, come on, you can give us at least one or two. Then it's not only females playing the game, right? So that's all we're saying.
Yeah.
Not, you know, again, Moira's really cool, Valera's really cool. Like all of the female characters are really cool and written well. Just, you know, give us some cool male characters. All right, that's all I'm saying.
Yeah, that's kind of like the only thing that could
The criticism,
could use
if
some
you could
improvement,
call
so
it.
that we're not like shilling like for anything, right?
it's
Because
not like, you know, I wouldn't even call it a criticism. It's something like, man, they really have to do something about it because it's getting weird at this point. Come on.
like actually, being the Nerubians being female centric makes a lot of sense.
Oh yeah,
Because you
fuck
know,
me,
we
like,
have
what the hell? Yeah.
the theme of
The
the
queen,
the Black
come on.
Widow.
Yeah.
Like in the spider in the Arachnus world, you know, usually female spiders are bigger, so they probably
Yeah,
dominate more. And that makes
100%.
sense, and that works for their race as well. But you know, the Arathi, well, we made our point.
Yeah, we made our point. All right, I think we can wrap it up for now.
Oh, for sure.
And let's see if we have some chats.
All right, so
We have
let's
something?
chat, everybody. I know Arja probably collected a bunch of the questions. If you have anything that you want to ask
I
us,
cannot see him. I'll wait for Flame to like
For sure.
see what he reads out. Stop with the coffee, man.
so
Stop with
all
the
of
coffee.
the questions and the concerns that you have, hopefully the War Within related, we'll get to it. Let's see. All right, we have Deadneck with the tier 1 sub. Thank you so much for the 3 months.
Hey,
Appreciate it.
thank you, Dreadneck.
You the man. Okay, so story related. We have Rhythm here. How much of these awesome things you are saying do you think are because Crits Medicine is back?
None. So in the podcast the interview he had with Scott Johnson, he basically confirmed that he joined the team as creative director for Warcraft, not WoW, Warcraft, in a time where War Within is wrapping up, story-wise and everything. Now, I'm not sure if he had, sure he had some saying because it feels like it's a lot more cohesive. So I think like when he joined, most of the big stories were done and the little small quests were also done. I think what he probably added on, because he did say so, he didn't really contribute that much to the War Within. What I feel is that he contributed to like, okay, remove this one, you know, okay, keep this one, maybe change this one to be linked with this one. And he basically, because I think this is something that he's really good at, if you look at all of the stories from prior games, you know, StarCraft, Diablo, and all of that, even if the story is shit, you still have this continuation. There's this whole thing that like ties in every little tidbit of it. This is really something that Metzen is good at.
World building.
World building for sure, right? So I wouldn't put too much merit on Metzen, apart from probably giving the general guideline and making a couple of tweaks for it. Because he did say, once again, he joined when War Within was wrapping up story-wise. So
Yeah.
So this gives me let me add this. This gives me proper nerd juice fuel for whatever is to come after War Within, because War Within started very promising. So
yeah. So what actually makes me very excited about the game is that if there are these, because this is something that I particularly care about, if there's these many skilled writers still in the story department that are being led to write their stories and actually make sense, then this is really good for WoW in the future. If they can write this good of a story with very minimal direction from Edson.
Yep.
That's what is very reassuring.
Reassuring.
Thank you, Beer Poo, for the Prime, buddy. Appreciate it.
Love you, buddy. Thank you so much for the time.
Welcome to the team.
Thank
All right.
you.
Stavros RGO Wolf says you had to remove / change a spec entirely from the game. Which, if you had to remove, which one would it be? Remove, change a spec entirely from the game. Okay.
I wouldn't remove any spec, but I'll definitely change a lot of them. Oh, that's a big topic.
Well, he said remove or change. We could change. Okay, then let's humor the person. What would you change? And
I would change Red Paladin.
Okay.
A lot. I would drop the Holy Power thing. I would add different mechanics to it, similar to Unholy Death Knight runes, but have different sources of power, of light. There's a source of light from the Titans. There's a source of light from I forgot their names.
Naru.
From the Naru, there's a source of light of wherever, and every source of light provides you different abilities. I would complicate Red Paladin so much, man. I would change it.
Would you give it a Void Knight theme?
Oh, for sure. Void Knight, like after seeing Last Epoch.
Yeah.
Ah, man, shit. Definitely. Because if you're gonna have like Discipline Priest and Shadow Priest, I can definitely see some Void Knights. But that would be my first big change, because I'm a big Red Paladin fanboy, and don't even get me started. But that's the first thing I would start with. The Holy Power needs to go, and I would add a system that is much more, not complicated, but more in depth, let's say. And that would be different sources of light, similar to Death Knight runes. That's dope. Well, the first thing that comes to mind always is Shaman Tank, but that's mostly adding stuff. So instead, what I will say is I would actually change Prot Warrior, because it's a spec that I'm very personally attached to, and I would give it two separate themes in terms of how you play it. You can do the Gladiator build, where you still use a shield, but you're a lot more offensive, a lot more aggressive. Stance.
Yes, and you do more damage, but you take more damage as well. And the other would be some kind of like the Titan theme, where you could equip a two-hander weapon and a shield, and then you would go and you would bash people up, because obviously it doesn't make sense just for Fury to be able to wield two-handers, but also Pro Warrior as well to have like a big two-hander and a shield, maybe be extra slow. You would sacrifice mobility for that because you carry a lot of heavy stuff, but you would hit like a unit.
Yeah.
And the way they would build that, like, I don't really care. They've done really well at making Pro Warrior feel really well to play. The problem is that it's just the same old and never changes, and that's probably the things that I would like to see change for Pro Warrior.
I think we humored the question pretty good.
Yeah. All right. One more from Riven. Do you want the allied race system to continue? I, for one, would rather they group them up and treated them as variants. You select elf in character create, and then you get a sub-choice of night elf, blood elf, wine elf, void elf, and so on.
It's an interesting idea. Definitely interesting idea. I don't think they want to like revamp that whole system, because that involves a lot of spaghetti code over there. So, just grouping them up, they'll probably be better for like ease of access and where you create. But you got to understand, I think they still want to retain the original flavors of the races, the original races.
For sure.
It's interesting because apart from drag tiers, they haven't really introduced like big new races, only allied races. So there's also this thing, right? Like when they plan ahead to like introduce a new race, and you also have these allied races, there's also that need to be taken into account. The story, the mechanics, the racials, all of that. It's an interesting idea, but I don't believe they would like put the energy into that spaghetti code to make it okay, night elf, and then you have the variants. I think that's complicated.
I think a part of the reason that this question has been formed this way is because allied races are kind of like reskinned models, but they're not necessarily that. Allied race is basically a race that you ally yourself with through the story.
I mean, listen,
and you don't.
Volpira.
Yeah, Volpera is not, I guess you can say it's a goblin reskin if you really want to go there, but it's, it's a whole race in of itself. It's not like a different version of a goblin, right?
Yeah, it's a cotton ball.
But I do think that the allied race system should stay because they are slowly and surely removing the barriers of what they would like to introduce, and hopefully one day we can get ogres. Hopefully we might even get Nerubians, and you would not get these races if you would have what Rhythm is saying here of having a slider of which the colored version of the elf you want to be.
Plus, that would also kind of kill whatever they did, like for example with the Earthen story. Which, being an allied race, but having this backbone of a story is really cool.
Individuality, you're your own thing.
It's an own thing. So for sure, yeah. Next.
All right, Luna Reese. How do you guys feel like sub is right now? I guess sub broke. It's gonna be broken when we can get the first weapon off of Princess in raid. Also, I feel like you would play sub in hierarchies due to nimble flurry. I think you want to say.
In beta, it didn't impress me. It was good in beta, but it was still buggy. I don't know how it is right now.
I don't think the tuning of Sub Rogue right now would beat Assassination's tuning.
Yeah, Assassination seems to be the winner out of it, but you have to.
It's been a long time since Assassination has been a winner.
I know. I'm not trying to say anything here, but you have to understand there's going to be tuning even after the season starts and even after probably not during the Race to World First, but you can bet your ass after the Race to World First ends, you're going to have a lot of changes to classes. So Sub-Rogue traditionally wasn't really super Giga King in Mythic Plus, apart from maybe Season 2 of Dragonflight.
Well, Shadowland, wasn't it?
And Shadowlands, yeah. But I think the way they've kind of developed the specs, it will be decent, but I think still Outlaw is going to come on top on this, because this is how they kind of imagine these rogue specs to behave. Clearly, the kit of Outlaw is basically constructed to deal with situations like Mythic Plus and Cleave and all of that. Clearly, the kit of Assassination is basically to destroy a boss, like Super Giga Single Target. And Subtlety is the priority type of DPS. Like, okay, in a Mythic Plus environment, you can definitely have a Sub-Rogue to make sure that this target dies while also touching the other. So I'm not convinced that sub will be dominating M+, not from what I've played on the beta and not from what I think their mentality is on building up these specs. We'll see.
It's very interesting because we're going to have a fresh new take on Mythic Plus once the season launches right now. And even though we've tested it on beta, I don't think those numbers are conclusive whatsoever, because right now affixes will going to be different. Past key level, plus 12, you're never going to have affix changes at all. So people will have a lot more time to establish a meta. On one hand, that means that you will know 100% what's good or bad. On the other hand, that might mean less variety. So it could either be one of two. It could either be so crazy everything works, it's like never before anybody can play anything right now because the whole Mythic Plus changed, or it could be very restrictive, very okay, past level 12, because the affixes never changes, there's no variety or variance in terms of the gameplay in terms of Mythic Plus, then you're always going to play these 5 specs and that's it. So we don't know yet until the season actually launches. So, but that's why part of why it's so exciting as well, I guess.
We'll see. It definitely will make for interesting tier list videos.
Oh, you better believe it. All right. Tarraless next. Would you recommend Evoker or Pally for returning mostly solo player that would like the ability to heal in groups? Well,
that's all on you.
Evoker is a good class to play in solo, particularly because Drag Theory is a good race to play in solo because you can glide everywhere, you don't really need a mount, and you have a lot of CCs. When I think of solo play, I think of ways to get out of combat real quick, do these quests, and sneak around. I wouldn't pick either of these two for solo content. I would either pick something with stealth or something with a fat pet. So either a hunter, rogue, or druid, stuff like that. But if these are your choices, they both have really strong healing specs. I would personally go for Paladin. I think Red is a much better spec at doing solo stuff because you can be immune. You are very tanky. You can heal yourself. Evoker can do that as well, but you're like a skinny, really squishy lizard. So I wouldn't say that
Paladin would be the option for sure.
All right, this is for the questions that we missed. We have a couple more in chat. Let's see what people have to say. You think this priest will become meta someday? It's very difficult because in order for Discipline Priest to become meta, the speed of combat would have to slow down a lot more because Discipline Priest does not have burst healing. It has good healing, but it's a slow ramp up and it's very consistent. It can be consistently high healing, but the combat doesn't let you do that. The combat will break your rotation up for you to do other things like dispels, kicks, silence, all of that stuff. So you never have the right conditions for discipline to shine until everything slows down a lot more, and it's not looking like it's slowing down as much as the devs said that they wanted that to be. The dungeons still need to be nerfed. They have been nerfed a little bit, and it was better in the last week of beta that we've tested them the best so far, but it's still no way close to where specs like discipline would probably shine.
No, discipline is going to be quite fine in Mythic Plus. Meta is a whole different discussion. Plus, it needs to have a lot of mobs all the time to be able to heal. And then the way things are going, it's probably not going to be the case. Discipline Priest was pretty on top, like in a lot of seasons of at least BFA, Shadowlands, really Dragonflight. Even it was there. I'm not sure if we would call it a meta healer, but it was up there. So
the only time discipline was really, really good is when you could play it in a key where people didn't take damage, where you could dodge you either don't take damage or immune damage, or you use a big defensive like we had in Shadowlands. I think there was a point either at season 1 or season 2 when discipline was running the highest of keys, and that was most likely when the defenses were giga strong and people really knew how to dodge everything. That's maybe creme de la creme meta, but
no, but that's the thing. Discipline Priest does not have a panic button, so you kind of need that in high keys in order to establish meta. So don't really see it happening, at least not in season 1. We'll see.
It's still gonna be good, and has advantages over Holy Priest, for instance, because you have pain suppression, which is really good. You have barrier, which is also really good.
It's a lot of damage reduction, but once again, like you really have to prep up for that. And there's situations where something really hits hard, all of your team. It's pretty painful to get everybody up as a Discipline Priest. You can 100%, but there's other healers that can do that way more efficiently in a Mythic Plus environment. So, yeah.
Okay. Does anyone actually find Fists of Fury fun on Monk? The only thing that I dislike about current Monk. That's such an interesting take, and I feel like this is part of the boomer generation of WoW and the new generation of WoW. I don't know how long have you been playing WoW, Brayden, but I hear the same thing about warriors as well. Warriors that don't like Bladestorm, monks that don't like Fist of Fury, and I feel like these are such iconic spells for these specs.
Why wouldn't you like that? It's so cool.
And okay, it feels like people need this dopamine hit every 1.5 seconds when your global GCD cooldown gets off. And channel spells are not viewed as more fun, but I feel like channel spells give you time to reassess the gameplay, the rotation, and to plan ahead of your next couple of globals. Probably not something that happens if you play with a weak card that constantly tells you what your next button is going to be, so you never have to engage with that. But when I play, well, let's say Windwalker in this case, and I use Fist of Fury, I'm looking like, okay, Fist of Fury is a 3-part combo spell that works with Sun Kick and Whirling Dragon Punch, and juggling their cooldowns with Blackout Kick that also reduces their cooldowns is an interesting way of playing Windwalker Monk, and having the time to okay, what's my cooldowns? Okay, do I use Blackout Kick? Do I use Sun Kick? Do I use Whirling Dragon Punch? What am I using next?
Decision making,
that little split second where Fist of Fury is channeling, that's part of why I like those skills. Plus, it's really fun to throw a gazillion punches and rotate around. It's just oh, is that your mouth? Bam! For me, that's really fun, and those are iconic spells that they don't have to feel great, like I don't know how Wake of Ashes feels, but it's just part of why
it's part of their identity. Yeah, it gives it, this is the flavor of it. Of course, we enjoy it to death. It's like Bladestorm and Fist of Fury for monks. Chef's kiss.
Perfectissimo.
What next?
I think this is mostly it. From what I've seen, it was a good episode. We talked about the first version. What are your opinions on the remastered Tier 2 sets? Oh, we haven't actually talked at all about the announced anniversary.
Yeah. Well, consider us hype. This is a long time coming, I would say.
Hype and hard.
And the coolest thing is that will be the entirety of patch 11.0.5. So it's going to be like the event with everything that's packed into it.
With time walking, that's most likely going to be...
Oh, boy.
I don't know if off the bat, but eventually maybe an evergreen system, time walking classic dungeons. And ever since time walking started, everybody was memeing like, oh, I wonder if they do time walking classic. Oh no, they're not gonna do it because the dungeons are so old. So Well,
here you are.
Yeah, there we
Here-
go.
Here you are now. But yeah, obviously the biggest highlight over there is the actual tier 2. And apart from like the amazing reworks, I cannot wait to get my hand on almost all of them. What they did with the classes that were not in tier 2,
Oh, that's so good.
the monk, the DK.
That's how you know that the game is finally, well, it's been for a while, but you can clearly see that the game is developed by people who like World of Warcraft.
Yes, and they know. So, but this has been a long time coming, and yeah, we're like super excited. We actually wanted to make like a separate video on that topic, and not necessarily talk about it on the wrap up show, because it's pretty fresh, and I think like there's no news value into it. I think that would be like a little bit more opinionated type of stuff.
Sure.
So we can definitely make a video about all of that and talk about the actual event, because it involves a lot of things. But rounding up the answer, it's another major W for World of Warcraft in general. Like if they keep on this track, I was expecting a separate event, like
we talked about it.
Yeah, in the same lines as they did, Plunderstorm and WoW Remix, and I was honestly thinking, like, okay, that team really must be cooking up something. But what they did is actually better, because it's within the live game, and you can basically do your things with the season, and you'll be able to get that currency, to get the gear, and it's all good.
Yeah, we actually had people today in chat and stream wanting to come back after they saw the tier 2, and I was like, wow, this is actually getting people like
that's great.
like classic Andes are probably like, oh shit, the WoW I like is in retail now.
I've seen a couple of videos on YouTube from people who only played Classic, trying out War Within for the first time, and their actual reaction was, man, this feels like why I fell in love with Classic.
Oh,
because of questing, because of stories, because of getting there, because not feeling the pressure to get, to the item level and so on and so forth.
It's a slower progression.
It's a slower progression for sure, and I think that's for the better. Because the season will start. We'll get into it, grinding the gears and all of that.
There's going to be a lot to grind.
For sure. That's it?
All right, I think we're done.
Wrapping it up. All right. So as usual, in case you came late, this will be full onto our YouTube channel. If you don't want to see it all, it's going to be all like edited and clipped out and put onto our second channel. That's youtube.com/@Marcelian&Flame. Check it out. Go there, subscribe, like, leave a comment, all of that good stuff. This is basically all of the wrap-up stuff that we do on live shit goes into like separate videos on that channel. Other than that, thank you everyone for chatting, for subbing, for joining. It's been awesome. I still cannot believe we talked about stories and quests and all of that for an hour and a half.
We've been wanting to do videos like related to lore for like at least 3 or 4 years.
We had nothing to work with, truth be told.
Yeah.
So now we have something to work with, and it's really great. Probably in the next wrap-up will be a lot about the new season, the new raid, and a lot of goodness that's going to happen with the Mythic Plus. So be on the lookout for that. Join us on every Thursday. I forgot the hours, but you'll get the announcements.
This hour -1.5.
If you follow us on Twitter, on Discord or whatever, you're gonna get notification
for sure.
All right, everybody, have a good night, evening,
Thanks
morning.
for coming.
Thank
See you tomorrow on
you.
stream. Bye-bye.
Ooh, here we go. Wrap up animation.